You are your own constant. No matter how much the world around you changes, no matter how many people come and go, you remain. Life is a series of shifting circumstances. Relationships evolve, friendships fade, people disappoint, and expectations often go unmet. Yet through all of this, there is one thing that never truly leaves you: yourself. Understanding this fundamental truth is the foundation of self-reliance, inner peace, and personal strength. Many people go through life attaching themselves to others, believing that their happiness depends on external forces. They place their emotional well-being in the hands of relationships, friendships, family, or even societal validation. But the reality is that every external attachment is temporary. No matter how deep a connection feels, it can change in an instant. People grow apart, circumstances shift, and sometimes even those we trust the most can walk away. If your happiness and sense of self are tied to others, you are setting yourself up for inevitable suffering. This is not to say that relationships are not valuable. Human connection is a beautiful part of life, but it should not be the foundation of your existence. You cannot build your emotional stability on something as unpredictable as other people. They have their own lives, their own struggles, and their own journeys that may not always align years. If you rely on someone else to make you feel whole, you are giving them the power to take that wholeness away whenever they choose to leave. This is why it is essential to cultivate a sense of self that is independent of external factors. Being your own constant means understanding that you are enough as you are. It means realizing that you do not need validation, approval, or companionship to feel complete. When you internalize this, you become unshakable. You no longer fear solitude, because you understand that being alone does not equate to loneliness. Instead, solitude becomes a space for self-discovery, growth, and self-mastery. You learn to enjoy your own company, to find fulfillment in your own passions, and to create a life that is meaningful to you, not one built around the expectations or presence of others. When you embrace the idea that you are your own constant, you stop chasing people who do not appreciate you. You stop begging for attention, for love, or for acceptance. Instead, you walk with quiet confidence, knowing that your worth is not dependent on whether or not someone else recognizes it. You no longer tolerate mistreatment or stay in situations that drain you simply because you fear being alone. You recognize that the only thing worse than solitude is surrounding yourself with people who make you feel alone, despite their presence. This mindset shift allows you to navigate life with greater emotional resilience. When people leave, it does not shatter you. When circumstances change, you do not lose yourself. You learn to adapt, to let go without bitterness, and to keep moving forward without looking back in regret. You stop wasting time mourning what was never truly in your control, and instead you invest your energy into becoming the strongest, most self-sufficient version of yourself. Being your own constant also means embracing personal accountability. When you understand that you are the only person who will always be there for yourself, you take responsibility for your own happiness. You stop waiting for others to make your life better. You stop expecting someone else to rescue you from your struggles. Instead, you take charge. You become proactive in building the life you want, rather than passively waiting for circumstances to align in your favor. This level of self-reliance does not mean shutting people out or rejecting love and connection. It simply means that you approach relationships from a place of strength rather than need. You can love deeply, appreciate people, and enjoy meaningful bonds without becoming emotionally dependent. This allows you to experience relationships in a healthier, more fulfilling way, one based on mutual respect, rather than an unconscious fear of losing someone. To be your own constant is to realize that the person you are when no one is watching. When no one is beside you, when everything is silent, that person is enough. That person is strong. That person is worthy of love, even if the only love they receive comes from within. You must nurture this relationship with yourself because it is the only one that is truly permanent. Everything else is fleeting, but you will always have you. Life is unpredictable. You will face loss, disappointment, and change, but as long as you remain grounded in yourself, you will never be lost. You will always have a home within your own mind, within your own heart. No matter what happens, you can stand firm in the knowledge that you are your own source of stability, peace, and strength. You are your own constant. Life is filled with uncertainties, and no matter how much we try, we cannot control everything. There will always be circumstances beyond our reach, people who act in ways we do not expect, and outcomes that do not align with our desires. The more we resist this truth, the more we suffer. Learning to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not is one of the most powerful lessons we can embrace. It allows us to focus our energy where it truly matters while freeing ourselves from unnecessary frustration and disappointment. At the core of this principle is the understanding that our thoughts, choices, and actions are the only things we truly own. We cannot control the weather, but we can choose how we dress for it. We cannot control whether someone else treats us with kindness, but we can choose how we respond to them. We cannot stop unexpected challenges from arising, but we can decide whether to meet them with resilience or despair. This ability to direct our own mindset and behavior is where our power lies. Instead of wasting energy trying to change things beyond our reach, we should focus on refining ourselves, strengthening our responses, and improving the aspects of life that are actually within our influence. A major source of suffering comes from trying to force outcomes that are beyond our control. Many people spend years chasing perfection in situations where perfection is impossible. They try to change other people, to make them act differently or think a certain way, only to be met with frustration when reality does not align with their expectations. The truth is that we cannot control the actions or thoughts of others. People will do what they want, think what they want, and live according to their own choices. Instead of exhausting ourselves by trying to dictate their behavior, we should shift our focus to ourselves, how we react, how we adapt, and how we protect our own peace of mind. Accepting what we cannot control does not mean giving up or being passive. It does not mean that we do not care about the outcomes in our lives. It simply means that we stop wasting time on things that cannot be changed. It means recognizing when to fight and when to let go, when to push forward and when to step back. The key is wisdom, knowing where our efforts will be meaningful and where they will only lead to frustration. Often people confuse acceptance with weakness. They believe that accepting something means surrendering to it. But in reality, acceptance is a form of strength. It takes courage to acknowledge that some things are beyond us. It requires discipline to redirect our energy toward what we can control instead of fixating on what we cannot. It is far easier to complain, to resist, to wish things were different. But those actions lead nowhere. True growth comes from embracing reality as it is and working with it instead of against it. When we learn to focus only on what is within our control, life becomes simpler and more peaceful. We no longer carry the weight of trying to fix the unfixable. We stop fighting battles that are not ours to fight. We let go of resentment over things that are outside of our hands. This does not mean we do not feel emotions or that we become indifferent to the world. It simply means that we channel our energy wisely, investing it in the things that truly matter and letting go of what does not serve us. There is immense freedom in realizing that we do not have to control everything. Many people live with anxiety and stress because they try to manage every detail of their lives, fearing uncertainty, fearing failure, fearing that things will not go according to plan. But life rarely follows a perfect script. There will always be unexpected twists, losses, and challenges. The more we try to resist these natural shifts, the more we suffer. Instead of fearing change, we'd embrace it. Instead of worrying about what might happen, we should prepare ourselves to handle whatever comes our way with grace and resilience. This mindset applies not only to personal struggles but also to the bigger picture of life. The world is full of chaos, injustice, and unpredictable events. While we may wish to fix everything, we cannot. We can, however, choose how we contribute to the world around us. We can choose our actions, our words, and our responses. We may not be able to single-handedly change the world, but we can create change in the space that we do control: our own lives, our own circles, and our own communities. Letting go of control does not mean losing direction. It means shifting our focus to what we can actually change instead of drowning in frustration over what we cannot. It means working toward our goals while understanding that setbacks will happen. It means trusting ourselves to handle whatever life throws at us instead of trying to predict or prevent every possible difficulty. This is where true peace is found, not in controlling everything, but in knowing that we do not need to. The sooner we learn to release our grip on things that are outside our influence, the lighter we feel. We stop wasting time on pointless arguments, on trying to prove ourselves to people who will never understand, on stressing over things that are beyond our reach. Instead, we focus on growth, on learning, on becoming stronger and wiser. We understand that our power lies not in bending the world to our will, but in mastering ourselves. By accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what we can, we take back control in the truest sense. We reclaim our energy, our peace, and our ability to navigate life with clarity. We no longer live in resistance, but in alignment with reality. This is not a path of weakness, but of strength, the strength to know when to act, when to let go, and when to simply be. There is a profound difference between needing people and appreciating them. Many go through life seeking validation, companionship, and reassurance from others, believing that they cannot be happy, successful, or even complete without them. But the truth is, no one is responsible for your fulfillment, except you. The more you depend on external forces to dictate your happiness, the more powerless you become. True freedom comes from the ability to stand alone, to be content with your own company, and to live without the fear of being left behind. At the same time, learning to appreciate others without clinging to them allows relationships to be more meaningful, free of desperation and expectation. Needing people often leads to suffering. When you rely on someone else to fill an emotional void, their absence, whether temporary or permanent, feels unbearable. You attach your sense of self to their presence, and in doing so you give them control over your emotions. If they disappoint you, ignore you, or leave, your entire world shatters because you built your foundation on something external. The moment you free yourself from this dependency, you regain control over your own life. You begin to realize that no single person is responsible for your well-being, and no one holds the power to break you unless you allow them to. This does not mean rejecting human connection. It does not mean isolating yourself or avoiding relationships. On the contrary, when you stop needing people, you can truly begin to appreciate them. Instead of attaching expectations, you enjoy them for who they are, not for what they provide. You stop looking at relationships as something you must maintain out of necessity, and instead embrace them as a gift. When you do not depend on someone to make you happy, their presence in your life becomes a choice, not a requirement. This makes every interaction more genuine, free from the fear of loss or disappointment. When you appreciate people instead of needing them, you no longer tolerate toxic relationships. Many remain in situations that drain them simply because they fear being alone. They accept mistreatment, betrayals, or neglect because they believe they cannot function without a particular person. But once you understand that you are enough, that you are complete on your own, you no longer settle for less than you deserve. You have the strength to walk away from relationships that do not serve you because your happiness is not tied to anyone else. This mindset also shifts the way you experience love. Many approach love with an almost desperate need to be chosen, to be valued, to be validated. But love should never come from a place of lack. True love is not about possession or dependence. It is about mutual respect and admiration. When you love from a place of wholeness rather than need, you allow others to be themselves without trying to mold them into something they are not. You no longer look for someone to complete you because you are already whole. This makes love stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling. Friendships, too, become more enriching when you appreciate rather than rely on others. You no longer expect friends to always be available, to always understand, or to always meet your emotional needs. Instead, you enjoy them for who they are without the pressure of expectation. You give them space, just as you take space for yourself. This mutual respect fosters deeper connections because neither party feels trapped by obligation. The best friendships are those where both individuals are secure in themselves and come together not out of need, but out of choice. The workplace and social dynamics also change when you embrace this perspective. Many seek approval from colleagues, bosses, or social groups, bending themselves to fit expectations and fearing rejection. But when you understand that your worth is not dependent on the acceptance of others, you carry yourself differently. You stop trying to impress, to prove yourself, or to be liked. Instead, you focus on your growth, your skills, and your personal values. Ironically, this confidence often makes others respect you more because you are not desperate for their validation. Another powerful benefit of not needing but appreciating others is the ability to handle solitude with grace. Many fear being alone, equating it with loneliness. But solitude is not something to escape from, it is something to embrace. When you are comfortable with yourself, being alone is not a burden but an opportunity. It is in solitude that you discover your strengths, refine your thoughts, and build resilience. It is in these quiet moments that you truly understand who you are, independent of anyone else's influence. Learning to need no one but appreciate everyone brings a deep sense of peace. It removes the fear of loss, the anxiety of abandonment, and the desperation for external validation. It allows you to live fully, love freely, and connect with others in a way that is authentic rather than forced. You no longer see relationships as something to cling to, but as something to be grateful for, knowing that whether people stay or go, you remain whole. This perspective creates a life of true freedom. You are not tied to anyone for your happiness, yet you welcome others into your life with open arms. You enjoy relationships, but you are not defined by them. You love deeply, but you do not fear loss. You give freely, but you do not expect in return. This is the ultimate balance: being independent yet connected, being self-sufficient yet open-hearted. And when you achieve this, you realize that the best relationships are not those born out of need, but those that exist simply because they are valued. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval. Whether it is from parents, teachers, friends, or society as a whole, we learn that validation from others equates to success, worth, and even happiness. This conditioning follows many into adulthood, where they continue to measure their value based on external opinions. They seek recognition, praise, and acceptance, believing that their worth is determined by how others perceive them. However, the more one depends on external validation, the more control they surrender over their own happiness. True freedom and self-respect come when you detach from the need for approval and embrace the idea that your worth is not dictated by the opinions of others. Living for approval is a never-ending cycle. If you constantly seek validation, you will always find yourself adjusting your behavior, personality, and choices to fit what others expect. The problem with this is that people's opinions are inconsistent. What pleases one person may disappoint another. What is praised today may be criticized tomorrow. If your self-worth is tied to something as unstable as external approval, you will always feel uncertain and anxious. You will question yourself, hesitate to take risks, and limit your potential because you are afraid of judgment. Detaching from this need allows you to live life on your own terms, free from the constant worry of how others perceive you. One of the most common ways people seek validation is through social acceptance. Many feel the need to be liked, to fit in, or to be admired. They conform to social norms, even when those norms go against their true desires and beliefs. They say yes when they want to say no, agree when they want to disagree, and follow trends they do not even like. The fear of rejection or judgment drives them to suppress their individuality, but in doing so they lose themselves. They become versions of what they think others want, rather than who they truly are. Letting go of the need for social approval means embracing your authentic self, even if that means standing alone at times. Another form of validation seeking comes from achievement and success. Many people define their worth by how much recognition they receive for their work, accomplishments, or talents. They work tirelessly not necessarily because they love what they do, but because they crave the acknowledgement that comes with it. While ambition is not inherently bad, basing your self-worth on external recognition can be dangerous. If your confidence only comes from how others perceive your success, you will feel empty when that validation is not given. True fulfillment comes from doing things because they matter to you, not because they will impress others. Social media has amplified the need for approval in ways that previous generations never experienced. Many people measure their self-worth by likes, comments, and followers. They post not because they genuinely want to share something, but because they crave validation from an online audience. This dependence on digital approval creates an illusion that happiness and self-esteem come from numbers on a screen. But the moment those numbers drop, so does their sense of value. Detaching from this mindset means understanding that your worth is not determined by how many people acknowledge you online. You are valuable regardless of who notices you, likes your post, or praises your achievements. Fear of criticism is another reason people struggle to detach from validation. Many avoid speaking their minds or pursuing their goals because they are afraid of being judged. They fear that if they make mistakes, others will see them as failures. But criticism is unavoidable. No matter what you do, there will always be people who disapprove. Trying to avoid criticism by seeking constant approval is an exhausting and impossible task. The only way to truly be free is to accept that judgment is a part of life and to stop allowing it to dictate your actions. When you no longer fear disapproval, you gain the courage to take risks, make mistakes, and grow without hesitation. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is that most people are too focused on themselves to constantly judge you. Many people overthink their actions, worrying about what others will think, only to later realize that no one was paying that much attention. People are caught up in their own lives, insecurities, and concerns. The approval you seek is often something they are too preoccupied to even notice. Realizing this can be liberating because it removes the illusion that you must constantly prove yourself to others. Detaching from approval and validation does not mean becoming indifferent or rejecting all feedback. It is about distinguishing between constructive guidance and the unhealthy need for praise. It is about valuing your own judgment more than the opinions of others. It is about making choices that align with your true self rather than choices designed to win approval. When you no longer crave validation, you experience life with greater authenticity, confidence, and inner peace. You are no longer bound by fear or external expectations. Instead, you live freely, making decisions that reflect your values, passions, and personal truth. Pain is an inevitable part of life. No one can go through existence without experiencing hardship, loss, disappointment, or struggle. It comes in many forms: physical, emotional, and mental. But no matter how intense it may feel in the moment, pain is always temporary. It fades, it heals, it transforms. What remains long after the pain has passed is resilience, the strength built from overcoming difficulties. While pain is fleeting, the lessons and inner fortitude that come from enduring hardship stay with you forever. This is why learning to embrace resilience is one of the most powerful things you can do. Pain often feels overwhelming in the moment. It can make you believe that the suffering will never end, that things will never get better. Whether it is heartbreak, failure, betrayal, or loss, pain has a way of consuming thoughts, making time slow down, and convincing the mind that the distress is permanent. But no pain lasts forever. Wounds heal, circumstances change, and emotions shift. What seems unbearable today may become a distant memory in the future. Recognizing this truth helps in navigating hardships with a different perspective. Instead of resisting pain, one can learn to endure it, knowing that it is only a temporary phase in the journey of life. The key to overcoming pain is resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulties or pretending that pain does not exist. It is about facing struggles head-on and coming out stronger on the other side. It is about adapting to adversity, learning from hardships, and continuing to move forward despite setbacks. The strongest people are not those who have never suffered, but those who have been through the worst and still found a way to rise. Every challenge, every heartbreak, and every setback is an opportunity to build resilience. One of the most important aspects of resilience is perspective. Pain can either break you or build you, and the difference lies in how you perceive it. Those who see pain as the end of the road often become trapped in their suffering, allowing it to define them. However, those who view pain as a temporary challenge and an opportunity for growth develop a mindset that turns hardship into strength. Pain, when endured with resilience, becomes a stepping stone rather than an obstacle. It teaches lessons, reveals inner strength, and pushes individuals to grow beyond their limits. Pain also has the ability to transform. What once seemed unbearable often becomes a source of wisdom, empathy, and strength. Many of the greatest achievements in life come from those who have faced and overcome immense suffering. People who have endured hardships often develop a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. They become more compassionate, more determined, and more fearless. The struggles they once wished to avoid become the foundation of their strength. Pain is temporary, but the transformation it brings can last a lifetime. Another aspect of resilience is endurance. There will be moments in life when giving up feels like the easiest option, when pain is too much to bear, when failure feels too heavy, and when circumstances seem too impossible to change. The mind may want to surrender. But resilience is about pushing through, even when everything inside says to stop. It is about taking one more step, holding on a little longer, and trusting that better days are ahead. Pain is temporary, and if one can endure long enough, they will see that the struggle was not in vain. Pain also teaches self-reliance. In difficult times, people often look for external sources of comfort, hoping that someone or something will take the pain away. While support from others is valuable, true strength comes from within. No one else can endure your suffering for you. No one else can fight your battles. The more you rely on your own resilience, the more unshakable you become. You realize that no matter what life throws at you, you have the power to endure, adapt, and overcome. Resilience is also built through failure. Many people fear failure because they see it as proof of inadequacy. But failure is not an end, it is a lesson. Every time you fail, you gain experience, knowledge, and the opportunity to improve. Those who succeed are not those who never failed, but those who refuse to let failure define them. Pain from failure is temporary, but the strength gained from perseverance lasts forever. Emotional pain, like physical pain, also fades with time. Heartbreak, disappointment, and loss may feel unbearable, but the human spirit is designed to heal. Time, growth, and new experiences help to mend wounds that once seemed permanent. Looking back, many realize that the pain they thought would last forever has disappeared, leaving only the strength gained from surviving it. Ultimately, life is not about avoiding pain, but about learning to navigate it with resilience. Pain will come and go, but the ability to endure, to grow, and to rise above challenges will always remain. Every hardship endured adds another layer of strength, another piece of wisdom, and another reason to keep moving forward. Pain is temporary, but resilience is forever. Freedom is often misunderstood as the absence of rules, restrictions, or obligations, but true freedom is far deeper than that. It is not simply about having choices, but about having control over one's life. That control comes from self-sufficiency, the ability to rely on oneself for fulfillment, stability, and direction. When a person is self-sufficient, they are not bound by external forces, whether financial, emotional, or societal. They are not dependent on others for their happiness, success, or survival. Instead, they shape their own destiny, make their own decisions, and live according to their own values. This is where true freedom lies. Self-sufficiency begins with financial independence. Money may not be the source of happiness, but dependency on others for financial support can be a major limitation. Those who rely on others for their basic needs often find themselves trapped in situations they cannot escape, whether it be an unhealthy relationship, an unsatisfying job, or a restrictive environment. When someone has the ability to provide for themselves, they gain the power to make decisions based on what is best for them, rather than what they must endure to survive. Financial independence allows people to walk away from toxic situations, explore opportunities without fear, and live on their own terms. Beyond finances, self-sufficiency also applies to emotional stability. Many people tie their happiness to external sources, relationships, approval, or societal validation. They feel empty without constant reassurance, relying on others to feel valued or loved. However, this creates an unstable foundation for happiness because external sources are unpredictable. People change, relationships evolve, and validation is never guaranteed. Those who cultivate inner emotional strength are not shaken by these changes. They find fulfillment within themselves, ensuring that their sense of worth is not dictated by anyone else. This internal stability is one of the most liberating forms of self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency also means intellectual independence. Many people conform to popular opinions or blindly follow societal norms without questioning them. They base their beliefs, choices, and even ambitions on what they have been told, rather than what they have discovered for themselves. However, true freedom requires the ability to think independently, to seek knowledge, and to form one's own perspectives. When a person is intellectually self-sufficient, they do not fear standing alone in their beliefs. They are not swayed by peer pressure or manipulated by misinformation. Instead, they trust their ability to analyze, learn, and decide what aligns with their values. Another aspect of self-sufficiency is the ability to solve one's own problems. Many people fall into the habit of relying on others to fix their difficulties, whether it be family, friends, or even institutions. While support systems are valuable, dependency on them can become a weakness. Those who develop problem-solving skills and adaptability gain true freedom because they do not need to wait for someone else to rescue them. They face challenges with confidence, knowing they have the ability to find solutions. This self-reliance creates resilience, allowing a person to navigate life's uncertainties without fear. Self-sufficiency also extends to one's physical well-being. Many people neglect their health, assuming that they can always rely on doctors, medications, or others to take care of them when issues arise. However, true freedom includes taking responsibility for one's own health. Maintaining a strong body, eating well, and cultivating self-discipline in lifestyle choices ensures that a person remains independent and capable. The ability to take care of oneself physically prevents reliance on others, allowing a person to live with more energy, confidence, and autonomy. In relationships, self-sufficiency allows for deeper and healthier connections. Many enter relationships out of need rather than choice, seeking someone to complete them or fulfill an emotional void. This leads to dependency, insecurity, and an imbalance of power. When both individuals in a relationship are self-sufficient, they come together not out of necessity, but out of genuine appreciation and mutual respect. They do not cling out of fear of being alone, nor do they demand that their partner be responsible for their happiness. Instead, they build a relationship from a place of strength, where each person contributes rather than relies. This type of connection fosters freedom rather than restriction. Self-sufficiency is also the key to personal fulfillment. Many people chase happiness in external achievements, thinking that success, recognition, or material wealth will bring them peace. But when fulfillment comes from within, a person is no longer controlled by external rewards. They do what they love because they love it, not because they need validation. They set goals based on their own desires, not because they feel pressured by society's expectations. This internal fulfillment allows a person to live authentically, without fear of judgment or failure. Ultimately, self-sufficiency is the foundation of freedom. It allows a person to make choices based on their own values rather than external pressures. It eliminates the fear of loss, rejection, or dependence. When a person is self-sufficient, they do not need to ask for permission to live the life they want. They are free to pursue their passions, walk away from what no longer serves them, and shape their existence in a way that aligns with their true self. Freedom is not given by the world, it is created through self-sufficiency. True freedom is not something granted by others, it is something cultivated from within. When you are self-sufficient, you are no longer bound by dependency, fear, or external validation. You make choices based on your values, not on the expectations of others. You walk away from what no longer serves you and pursue what truly fulfills you. The more you rely on yourself financially, emotionally, intellectually, and physically, the more control you have over your own destiny. In the end, freedom is not about escaping responsibility, but about taking full ownership of your life. When you achieve self-sufficiency, you do not just live, you thrive, on your own terms, with no one holding the reins but you.